Yo, what up, nerd fam? It's your boy Diesel time for Rasqache Art Media, and today we're talking about the Batman show with no Batman. That's right, Gotham. They just dropped the trailer for season 4 and they put season 3 on the Netflix. I just got through rewatching it, and I'm going to talk about some of the things I liked and some of the things I didn't like. And there were a lot of story arcs, a lot of characters, things to keep track of, all inevitably taking us towards that someday when Bruce Wayne does finally become Batman. And I think there was a lot of pressure from the fans. Maybe the studio execs were telling the showrunners, hey, we gotta make this feel like a Batman show and not a pre-teen, pre-Batman show. And that means taking some risks. But it doesn't mean that all risks are made equally. So let's talk about it. So there's a lot going on in this season. We're gonna tread lightly, get it on something a little easy to chew. Let's talk about the romance. There's a lot of romance. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it ugly. One of the romances I liked was the ongoing development between Bruce and Selina. The push-pull nature of their relationship felt very true to the comics, and I like that they kind of have this ongoing thing where they've always been these two characters dealing with pain, but they trust in each other, they recognize that pain in each other, and they're friends first. And the romance doesn't always work, even if they have mutual feelings. And of course, Bruce goes and puts his foot in his mouth right in the end and screws it all up. Nice. Now to get into muddier waters. I don't mind the writers switching things up and making the Penguin attracted to whatever character they choose, in this case, the Riddler. But what I do mind is them completely undermining the Cobblepot character and turning him into a sensitive little baby. I don't want to see him lovesick. But what I did like is when it doesn't work out and that love turns into hate and it becomes a rivalry, and I like the chemistry between the Riddler and the Penguin and their ongoing chess plays against one another. Just when you think one has the upper hand, really the other one has thought even more through, and then the other one gets the other one, and then finally, well, I guess the Riddler gets frozen. I don't know, I wasn't on board with that move, but I guess, again, we're gonna have to see how this thing goes. I like the Penguin better when he doesn't like anybody. Another on-screen couple that I enjoyed was Butch and Tabitha. They were a little bit of an unlikely pairing, but they complemented each other perfectly, just like a yin and a yang. I thought the moment when Tabitha sacrifices her hand to save Butch was probably the most memorable scene of the whole season. I mean, it was intense to say the least, and it pushed both their story forward and the Riddler's, which that's a big moment if you can do 2 for 1. And obviously Butch ends up getting smoked at the end of the season, and we find out that he may or may not be Solomon Grundy. I mean, he does have his name. So again, a growing pattern. We're gonna have to see how this one plays out. Going further down the rabbit hole of romance, Dr. Lee and Dr. Mario's romance was so contrived. Now, it's an old writer's trick to make the love interest's boyfriend easy to hate. That way you root for the protagonist and the girl to get together. But there's no way that the character of Dr. Lee Tompkins that they've already established would go for this whiny little weenie. I mean, I would have liked to see a guy that made Jim wonder, ooh, do I stack up to this fella? Something like in Meet the Parents with Owen Wilson, but instead of the ex, he's the new guy, and Jim's gotta find it in him to be even better than this guy who's better than him. Although, I did like at the end when they finally go full Keymaster and Gatekeeper and they're just nuts on the virus. But when they get better, you knew that after all they've been through, it wasn't likely that they were going to stay together, and especially since it's a television romance. But they are married in real life, so hooray! Happy endings! Yay! Art imitates life and life imitates art sometimes. So let's pause and talk about the lead character, because I think she's an important character to the show. She is a strong, level-headed, and compassionate character, which is why none of her decisions in this season made any sense to me. It didn't seem like her choices were being based on motives. They were always in reaction to what the male characters were doing around her. I thought her decision to take the Tetch virus was especially stupid, since after the whole season of her dealing with her anger and pain, she realizes that it was wrong of her to blame Jim for what Jarvis Tetch had done to Mario. And Tetch even admits to her, yeah, I did it just to get to you, and makes it clear that she is the victim, and yet this intelligent woman still decides, I'm going to infect myself with the virus, even after seeing what it does to people. I mean, why would you throw your life away out of self-hatred when there's so many better ways to do it? I mean, become an alcoholic, for God's sakes. Don't turn into a murdering monster. Are you crazy? I mean, Jesus West! Let me write for Lee next season. And last and certainly least, Enigma and Isabella. What a boring couple. Why is there a clone of his ex? Was she grown in the same lab as Bruce Wayne? And for what purpose? To make the Riddler fall in love and get soft? I mean, I just didn't get it. And they fell in love at first sight, and it was so unbelievably hard to watch. I'm so glad that they decided to kill this character off sooner than later and give the Riddler back whatever edge he might have had in season 2, because neutering this guy was just painful. I think that's all the romance. Got all that out of the way. Let's start talking about some of our favorite characters, starting with our strong females. Let's start with a character who was not so strong in previous seasons, Poison Ivy. I think in order to do this character justice, you had to switch up a lot, and that includes changing your actress. I liked aging her up and giving her a supernatural green thumb and an accident. You can say that this was a quick fix, but I think once they reintroduced the character into the series, she fit the tone of the show perfectly. We didn't get much Fish Mooney this season, but when she showed up, she shows up big, and she steals every scene she's in. I don't know if there was conflicts with the scheduling or if the writer's room just forgot how talented she is in the role, but I just wanted more. And I thought killing her off as soon as she comes back again was not only really annoying, but from a writer's perspective, it's kind of stupid to take your best character or one of your strongest characters off the court completely, because now if you want to bring her back, you're going to have to resurrect her for a second time, and that's going to start feeling real hacky. I think it's fair to say that they moved Fish Mooney aside in order to make room for Barbara Keene. This allows them to finish her story arc, making her a major crime boss, and it also gives the fans some service by having a character reminiscent of Harley Quinn. But as we see from the return of Jada, they couldn't have Barbara Keene be the queen of the crazies if she's swimming in the same pond as Fish Mooney. Nah! The portrayal of Selena Kyle isn't perfect, but the actress is doing an amazing job and embodies the character better than anyone since Michelle Pfeiffer, who we can't mention without bringing up that Batman Returns callback where she gets pushed out of the window and the cats come to lick her wounds. I thought it was fun fan service to bring that back, but ultimately putting her in the coma pushed Poison Ivy's story forward, and it robs the fans of witnessing Selena grow towards becoming Catwoman. So I kinda didn't appreciate what they did with it, but I still love the character. She's been doing a great job all 3 seasons. Alright, now let's get into some bromance. The chemistry between Jim Gordon and Harvey Bullock pretty much sells the show. Ben McKenzie is a huge nerd, loves Batman, and plays young Jim Gordon like nobody's business. And the actor playing Harvey Bullock acts his ass off. He hits every note of that character, from the grumpy, despicable cop that everyone hates, to the big giant teddy bear that everybody loves. He does a great job. Love those guys. Alright, now let's get into talking about some of the villains. I get that there's a tradition of overacting when you're the villain in a Batman show. Just look at the 60s show, it worked great. But that doesn't mean you have to overact so much that you take the audience out of the show. So without picking apart every single detail, I just want to say that the Jarvis Tetch character and Captain Barnes' executioner character did not work for me. I can suspend a lot of disbelief for the sake of watching a Batman show. But if you want me to watch a grown man say rhymes in a papier-mâché top hat and an old bald guy in a steampunk outfit chop off people's heads with an axe, I mean, you're just asking a little too much of me. No one wants to watch that. Come on. So Hugo Strange, this is a character who has no superpowers but has a superior intellect and a perverted curiosity, and that makes him dangerous. And that is not how they used him in this season. He was either the pawn of another villain, the butt of the joke, or getting bonked in the back of the head. Same thing with the Riddler, another character that they didn't seem to really understand. His obsession with shedding his Edward Nygma identity and being reborn as this criminal persona, it undermines the character's genius. He's not a predictable character. He's a character that makes other characters react. He's a string puller. And I felt like there was only 1 or 2 episodes where they really gave him that quality. And for the rest of the season, he was kind of a puppet. Now let's squeeze in Ra's al Ghul because they squeezed him in. It's hard to watch this without comparing him to Liam Neeson's rendition or the entire season that he got on Arrow, but they did throw him in for about 30 seconds. And the first thing I noticed is that he's got this tiger print robe and it's bedazzled and it jingles and they need to cut it out. I just didn't care for it. I wanted them to do the League, but I wanted them to do better than that. Alright, all this negativity is bringing me down. Let's get back on a positive note. Let's talk about Alfred Pennyworth, the butler with the left hook. I thought this actor gave some of the best performances all season. The writers gave him a lot of good material to work with. He embodies the selfless love that the Alfred character has for young Bruce Wayne and is the steady rock that he would need to get over the death of his parents. So I just thought they really brought him to life incredibly. The one thing I didn't like was at the end when Bruce is under the mind control and he actually goes through with stabbing Alfred with that cheap aluminum sword. This could have been a moment for Bruce to say, Alfred is like a father and he loves me more than this League of Shadows, League of Assassins guy ever could. I can't kill him. That's when I break my conditioning. But instead they went through and killed him, and seeing dead Alfred triggers him. But it would have been more in line with the Batman character. I feel like Batman killing is already a no-no, but killing Alfred is a super no-no, and they could have made it a lot more powerful for him to act on love and not on disappointment. Swallow the big pills. We're about to go deep. The League of Assassins and the Court of Owls are too big to be occupying the same space at the same time. Let's be clear on this. They should be used to overshadow Batman's already existing formidable rogues and let you know that these guys really don't play around. Now, as we saw in the Christopher Nolan Batman Begins movie, it does make sense to have the League of Assassins infiltrate a corrupt Gotham infrastructure and they unleash the fear toxin, and in this case we could have easily swapped in the Tetch virus. And it makes sense for Ra's al Ghul to make a play on Gotham, fail, have Bruce Wayne grow up, become Batman, and then Ra's al Ghul comes back and he fails again. But they decided to have the Court of Owls fill this role, and it just goes against the mythology that Scott Snyder set up in the New 52 run. First, It makes no sense for the Court of Owls to be unleashing a deadly virus on the city of Gotham. They are like an Illuminati group. They're not terrorists. And second, why are you bringing Jim Gordon into the fold if one, you killed his father and he knows, and two, you know that he's an incorruptible cop who wants to take everybody down? I mean, this guy is the Batman before there was a Batman. Why would you want Detective Jim Gordon to know your plans? And why would you let him know on purpose? That's not how the court would operate. Come on. So we got Penguin, Riddler, and Barbara all battling for power over Gotham's crime scene and all kind of suspecting that there might be something bigger and better out there. So what I would have liked to see is for Penguin's band of freaks either get steamrolled by the League of Assassins in order to set up how powerful the League is, or to have Penguin and his friends join Jim in the GCPD in order to stop the League of Assassins in the final showdown. They set up this cool Legion of Doom, Sinister Six type of group, but we never really got the big payoff of getting to see them work together as a team in like a big battle scene. It was small moves and then they kind of disbanded. Where's the big payoff? Why build this up and then not give us anything? Come on. And then meanwhile, you got Bruce kidnapped by the Court of Owls and he's going through this super hokey training. His stunt fighting looks terrible. The guy he's fighting with looks ridiculous. They had some cool stuff with the hallucinations of his memories, and it was heading in an interesting direction, but ultimately heading towards mind control is a stupid decision. I do not like mind control. And then you had him exact revenge for his parents' death, but he did it in a place that lacked emotion and motivation, so it didn't feel earned, it didn't feel necessary. I don't like having him become a terrorist and part of this organization and killing Alfred. It all just didn't feel necessary or appreciated or like it did anything for the character. Finally, the last problem with using the Court of Owls is that they killed off both Catherine, who you thought was the leader of the Court of Owls, and the old white guy who ends up being the leader of the Court of Owls, and they kill a bunch of people at the table. I mean, is there any Court of Owls left? The whole point is that Batman goes through this journey of becoming the great Dark Knight, and he thinks he's done everything he's had to do in his career to establish himself, and then he finds out there's this group behind the scenes, this Court of Owls, that he didn't even know about. So if you get rid of them now, then how is he supposed to discover them in the future? And then they did this stupid Dark Knight Rises thing where instead of Batman coming back for his reunion tour and letting, hey everybody know, I'm Batman and I'm Bruce Wayne, you're welcome, I just felt bad and need some credit, I need everyone to know I'm Batman, okay, I'm going bye-bye now, I'm Batman. Instead, every single villain, every single cop, every single kid walking around knows about the Court of Owls now. There's no surprise down the line. You spoiled it. What are you guys doing? Come on. So those are my thoughts on Gotham Season 3. I thought it was a bit of a step back from Season 2, but I did appreciate them taking the big risks of trying to tell a much wider story and trying to incorporate more Batman-isms into the day-to-day viewings and goings-on of the show. It looks like Season 4 is going to be leaning heavily on Frank Miller's Year 1 novel, so I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. Hopefully they tighten up the writing and stop making such hokey mistakes. I would like a bit of a more serious tone, even if they retain that campiness quality, because I'm rooting for this show. Every time I'm rooting for it. It tends to disappoint a little more than I would like. But it's still a good show, you know, it's Batman. You can't hate Batman. So those are my thoughts. Check out more videos. You can like, subscribe, leave a comment if you're curious. I just finished the storyboards for my second book of Kalaka. You can check out the first one on kalakacomic.com. You can also check out RasqacheArt.com if you're curious in what I'm getting into. Peace.